The heavy iron gates of the Baltimore State Hospital for the criminally insane loomed ahead, shrouded in the evening fog. FBI trainee Clarice Starling tightened her grip on the steering wheel, her mind racing with anticipation and dread. She had been summoned by her mentor, Jack Crawford, to interview one of the most notorious inmates in the history of the FBI, Dr. Hannibal Lecter, a brilliant psychiatrist turned cannibalistic serial killer. The guard at the gate inspected her credentials with a skeptical eye before allowing her through. The institution's cold, sterile halls echoed with the distant cries and murmurs of the inmates, a haunting symphony that sent shivers down her spine. As she approached the maximum security section, the air grew thicker with an oppressive silence, broken only by the occasional clank of metal doors and the whispering voices of guards. Agent Starling?" A voice called from behind. She turned to see Dr. Frederick Chilton, the facility's director, a smug smile playing on his lips. "I'll be escorting you to Dr. Lecter's cell." Chilton led her through a labyrinth of corridors, each one more foreboding than the last. He couldn't resist a few condescending remarks about her task, clearly enjoying her discomfort. Finally, they reached a thick glass partition, behind which sat the infamous Dr. Lecter. Hannibal Lecter was a slight man, his hair meticulously combed, his posture calm and collected. His piercing blue eyes seemed to look right through her, as if peeling away her layers of defenses. "A good evening, Clarice," he said, his voice smooth and cultured. "A good evening, Dr. Lecter," as she replied, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her insides. Their conversation began innocuously enough, with Clarice asking about his past patients and his insights into the human mind. But Lecter was not one to give away information easily. Instead, he turned the tables, probing into her personal life, her childhood traumas, and her deepest fears. "You know what you look like to me, with your good bag and your cheap shoes?" Lecter's voice was almost a whisper, yet it held a razor-sharp edge. "You look like a rube. A well-scrubbed, hustling rube with a little taste. Good nutrition's given you some length of bone, but you're not more than one generation from poor white trash, are you, Agent Starling?" Clarice felt her face flush, but she refused to be intimidated. She had come for a reason, and she wouldn't leave without some kind of lead on the Buffalo Bill case, a serial killer who was currently terrorizing the country. Over the next few days, she continued to visit Lecter, each time revealing a bit more about herself in exchange for cryptic clues. He was like a cat toying with a mouse, giving just enough to keep her coming back, but never enough to solve the puzzle. The game was a dangerous one, and she knew that Lecter was playing it for his own amusement as much as for any other reason. One evening, after another fruitless session, Clarice sat in her car, the weight of her failure pressing down on her. The radio crackled to life, announcing another victim had been found. Her heart sank, the urgency of the situation hitting her like a physical blow. Determined, she returned to Lecter's cell the next day with renewed resolve. This time, she shared a story from her childhood, a story about the lambs on her uncle's farm. She recounted how she tried to save them from slaughter, but failed. "I thought if I could save just one, but they were screaming." Lecter listened intently, his expression inscrutable. When she finished, he leaned closer to the glass. Thank you, Clarice. That was very compelling." He then provided a crucial piece of information, a name, one that would lead her to the breakthrough she needed. With this new lead, she raced against time, piecing together the clues that would eventually bring her face to face with the monstrous Buffalo Bill. The final confrontation was a harrowing ordeal, pushing Clarice to the limits of her courage and determination. In the end, she managed to rescue the latest victim and bring Buffalo Bill to justice, but the victory was bittersweet. The screams of the lambs still echoed in her mind, and she knew that her encounters with Dr. Lecter had changed her forever. Back in his cell, Hannibal Lecter received the news of Buffalo Bill's capture with a satisfied smile. He had enjoyed his time with Agent Starling, but now he had other plans. As the guards came to check on him, they found his cell empty, the glass partition shattered. Lecter was gone, and with him, a sense of unease settled over the institution. The silence of the lambs had been broken, but the echoes of their cries would haunt Clarice Starling for the rest of her life.